How many four-letter words can I use on that?
Transfers to a double. Cheddar is driving. Nothing yet. Takedown. Michael Cheddar.
Oh, Nick, I'm a top guy, so I love top wrestling.
Hale trying to stick him. He does. Maximus Hale the fall.
So I think that wrestling is the greatest sport on earth.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into On3 Wrestling. I'm your host, Nick Bosco. With me today is Rutgers assistant wrestling coach, Steve Mytych. Coach, great to talk to you. You guys coming off a little stadium workout this morning, so I'll start right there. Bright and early, running up the stadium steps. It's a beautiful fall day, obviously.
Yeah, it was awesome. Little cool air getting into the lungs, and we did the boat. So we rocked the boat, top, hit the field, back up to the top, a couple band things. So yeah, it was good. Good workout. Matches this afternoon, bringing in some referees for that too. So it's good experience for the guys. Having real officials with rules and the counts and things like that for the young guys. So super pumped for this afternoon.
How often do you guys get to do that? Is that pretty much every week where you're trying to get those match day simulations? Is that really what it's geared towards as we are pretty much now about a month out from the season starting?
Yeah, for the most part, we'll do like a 7 a.m. conditioning workout. That varies. It could be the stadium, could be in the room. And then we do some matches in the afternoon. So just to see where these guys are at, tire their legs out a little bit and then, kind of make them wrestle through it too. So, getting a good base on these guys.
Without a doubt. So let's dive into a little bit of this year's squad. Again, there's some roster turnover, but a lot of guys back, a lot of high caliber freshmen, I should say, coming in as well. Just your first impressions of this squad. I know there was a lot of work done over the course of the summer. Now that you're in the full tilt of the preseason, initial impressions of this whole team this year and what they can bring to the table this coming winter.
Yeah, I mean, we're super excited. Obviously, we have that veteran leadership, in our lineup, but, these young guys coming in, it's a great opportunity for them to push the older guys, right? So sometimes as you get older in a program, you get very comfortable. So bringing in the number 4 recruiting class, these guys they're winners, so they're coming in, pushing the older guys, and now the older guys are starting to push harder too. So super excited. John Paz looks phenomenal. Really excited. I think he's grown into that 197 a little bit more from even a year ago, but even last year he wrestled great. I know there were some, critics. He's too small. He's this and that. He was a sliver away from winning in that round of 12, and that guy went and took third. You know what I mean? I believe he's ranked number 1 right now at 197. So he's right there. He's doing great. Obviously, Shawver, he's a stud. He finds a way to win, and that's key. And I could go through the whole lineup like that. But, I just think that the veteran guys and the young guys we're gelling right now, and they're really building off of each other. I'm really excited about it.
When you have a veteran group back like that, and we didn't even mention Jackson Turley, again, an All-American in his own right a couple of years ago. He's back for his final season. Just this is more about him just because he had the option of either ending his wrestling career at the collegiate level or coming back. He opted to come back for his final season. Are these guys wrestling? Is it almost like they're wrestling freer after last year's success? Obviously, Shaw becoming an All-American. I know Yar's back as well. He was an All-American. Paz has been an All-American. All these guys have been on that podium before, and then pretty much only Yara and Turley have those are the guys that, all right, this is it, final year. But are these guys wrestling maybe a little bit freer? Is there more of a looseness with them in the room?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Jackson Turley is way ahead of where he was last year, especially from a shape perspective. I think his vision is clear now. When you get older and it's kind of your last hurrah, you kind of hone in and make all the right decisions, and the addition of Mikey Labriola has been huge for him. Those guys are doing extra workouts. I'm doing extra workouts with Jackson also. So he's very dialed in. I'm excited for his season and his kind of final hurrah. So I know he's very locked in also. So this is a whole team effort. So we're excited.
let's talk a little bit about Mikey Labriola, because I feel like the guy could just still come out on the mat, and then it wouldn't shock me that if he's out there, wrestling for the 174-pound national title in March. But he's been, as far as I've noticed, a pretty solid addition to the room as a coach, as a guy who's going to drill with these guys, and he's a 5-time All-American for a reason. What kind of instant impact did he have in the room once he stepped in?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a young guy come in. He's full of energy. He's scrapping every day. He loves the sport. The other day, I believe it was Wednesday, he was in there all day doing extra workouts. So it's great to have him. Selfishly, I love he's a PA guy. He's from District 11, Bethlehem Catholic. Right now, we live in the same town, so we enjoy our rides in and out together. So I'm super excited to have him on board. A little refreshing too. There's been a lot of change, on the staff, I guess you can say, and obviously, the guys who left, great guys. I mean, they're awesome. But on the flip side of that, it is nice to have a little refreshing, little bit of a kickstart. And really, just grind right now. We're doing that as a staff, and that's through the whole program. Getting these young guys up to speed, the recruiting. We're at every major event. Myself and Pollard will be heading down to Super 32 this afternoon. So we're just putting the work in. We're putting the work in, and that's what you're supposed to do. Not every program, I guess, maybe does it, but we're grinding right now, and I'm pumped.
I really appreciate the grind aspect, especially, I follow you all over the place on social media. So I see, you're at practice one day, then all of a sudden 6 hours later, you're either coaching your son or you're out, I don't know, somewhere in the West Coast all of a sudden. Like, I don't even know how you got out that fast. So when you talk about the recruiting grind for yourself, all you guys do it, obviously. The whole staff is traveling. It's, again, that's pretty commonplace for a big time program. How do you like the recruiting grind? I also always wanted to get your perspective on that, where you run a practice this morning, you're gonna have matches later, you're coaching your son, and then you balance that and you say, all right, let's go on the road. Super 32s today, so we're gonna go see that. What's that grind like for you?
It doesn't seem like work to me. I really enjoy it. I love building the relationships with the families and the kids. My biggest advantage right now is when my son first started wrestling, he was always like the little 45-pounder on the K through 8, like PA Gold teams and little travel teams. Those kids that were, in 6th, 7th, 8th grade are now the kids that I'm recruiting. So I already know the families, I already know the kids. And again, it's about just building those relationships. So like I said, I'll be at Super 32. Tonight I'll be leaving. Super pumped to get down there and see the guys on my board that I have. And then my son will compete on Sunday too. So it'll be a intense weekend for me. So, but like I said, I love it. So it doesn't seem like work. It's just building those relationships.
I'll bring it back to what's going on right now for your team. The freshman class, and again, it's still preseason, so we're not really going to see what they're made of until they step on the mat. As far as the veterans, we've seen it before. We know what to expect, and maybe they'll exceed those expectations. What has stuck out about this freshman class before? As you mentioned before, and people have noticed, it's the number 4 recruiting class in 2024. You guys are hitting the trail hard for 25 and 26, of course. So when you look at 24 right now, these guys are now in there. There's a lot of talk about them coming in, but now they're in. They've been in the building for months now. What kind of impact have they made so far?
Yeah, I'm excited about this group. Very close knit, very close knit. It's actually odd that a lot of them know each other from the circuit. So Andrew Barbosa's dad used to run a travel team, Dynasty, and a lot of the guys wrestled on that, so they all know each other. So it's pretty neat that their relationship goes back years from when they were little guys. I also do think that, being that the new NCAA rule, freshmen being able to compete in 5 events with the Rutgers singlet on, you're going to see some of these guys in the lineup, and they'll be ready. Wrestling is changing very quickly into a young sport. So I don't know if I really believe in, hey, let's redshirt and prolong the career, right? When you're healthy and you're ready to go, I think you should want to wrestle. You should want to be in that lineup. So that's our mindset right now. Hey, everybody's up. Everybody's up. And, you know, maybe you might not be the guy, but, hey, you're one little elbow tweak or shoulder tweak and you're the guy, you're in the lineup. So you just need to be ready to go and be locked in. I do like that. The old rule where if you knew you were just going to redshirt, I don't know if guys got a lot out of that year. I don't know if they were super locked in and serious about, you know, kind of being focused about getting better. So I like this rule because you need to be ready to go when your number's called. So, and that could be five times out of the season. So, and these guys, we've explained that to these guys and they'll be prepared and I'm pumped to see them compete.
When you look at that redshirt rule, I think it was instituted a couple of years ago, and you guys have already used it to, so to speak, your advantage, or you've given these guys opportunities. When you do stuff like that, is it? I guess my question is, you mentioned how wrestling is changing and it's going back to, or not going back to, but now turning into a young man's game almost, where these freshmen and sophomores are able to win national titles right away. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think there's a lot of factors. I think that the clubs are making the sport better. There were clubs, but not a ton when I was coming up through. Now they're everywhere. And it's a lot of Division I high-level guys that are running them. Mm-hmm. So you're getting the good technique. You know, those workout partners get together. You know, I run a little K-8 workout where I invite kids to come in, and they're all, you know, 60 to 80 pounds, and they're all hammers, and we all get together, Jersey guys, PA guys, New York guys. Once in a while, I'll bring in California, Arizona. But again, it's just those relationships, right? So, but, you know, like-minded people, when they get together, you know, you can do some really great things. So I just think that these kids are more prepared. There's more video footage. Mm-hmm. There's more scouting. There's more private lessons. There's more, you know, more strength conditioning aspect of it. So I just think that these guys are, they recover much faster. I'll tell you that. So
I can only imagine. I guess with the recovery thing and then the technique, is it just, are there new techniques being discovered with all this video scouting and these guys just kind of having, it's like almost all these old D1 guys or guys that wrestled either, you know, 20 years ago or 10 years or even 5 years ago. It's like they're coming together in a lab, and are they creating new things or new tweaks on things, or is it just the ability to refine those techniques at this point?
Yeah, I think that it's very hard to change someone who has bad habits. So I think that these young guys are getting trained properly right from the get-go. I think that has a lot to do with it, just not having those bad habits. I also do think it's got a lot to do with chain wrestling. So I do a lot of chain wrestling with my youth group and obviously the college guys, but just, hey, good setup, good takedown, guy hits a changeover, then he Grambies, then you follow, then you knock him down, then he gets up, you know, you mat return, then he changes over again, gets up and cuts out. So I just think those drills kind of prepare those young kids, and they can all do it. They can all play wrestle. That really didn't exist, you know, back in the day, I guess you could say. So I just think they're more well prepared, and they have a good mindset, right? There's a lot of mindset training now. There's a lot of goal setting. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not just showing up at Super 32 like, well, I'm here, whatever happens, happens. These guys, they're there to win, you know, and to perform at their best. So, and I'm already doing it with my son, and he's only 12. So, you know, it's just kind of we're adapting to the sport, and it's just growing, and it's growing, you know, positively. Once we get the national duels, then we could get some better TV coverage, and, you know, I'm sure Scott's talked about that numerous times.
No, absolutely. I think I talk everybody's ear off about that, and we'll get into it in a second. I'm fascinated with this technique conversation when it comes to how these kids are just so prepared at a young age. You mentioned your son's only 12 and he's already getting this type of training and these types of looks. These kids growing up that you're recruiting, or even the freshmen that are in the program now for you guys, they probably grew up from between the ages of, let's just say 9 and 13, where when I was 9 and 13, I didn't see that. It was just about, all right, can you hit a double leg takedown? Can you run a half Nelson? So I got to imagine the jumps from 10, 15 years ago to now, maybe even 20 years ago now, in terms of that gap, it's got to be astronomical now, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, even from, I remember, club was Monday, Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Now it's Monday through Friday, stuff on the weekends. So it's just kind of intensified. And like I said, these kids are putting the time in too. There's no doubt about it. That's why they're so good, is they're committed to it. They're committed to being better. And, they're living the right lifestyle and all that good stuff too. So, and again, like I said, with the social media, you watch the Division I guys when you're a little guy and see, their workouts and how hard they work. And, you kind of want to be like them, So I think we're doing a good job as a whole of growing the sport in a positive direction. And, these up and coming young guys are really good. They're really good.
How do you prevent something like burnout from happening? I've seen it even at lower levels when it comes to just high school kids that maybe they were really good for 2 or 3 years in high school. They don't want to come out for their senior year, or some of these higher level guys, great in high school. They get to college. Maybe they get acclimated for a year or two. Then all of a sudden they hit a brick wall. It's almost like there's an interesting balance now, because there's so much more extra activity for these kids growing up. So how do they manage that, and how do you guys as a staff, and even you personally, talk to these wrestlers when they're coming in as freshmen, or keep them going when they're seasoned? Say, hey, let's not get burnt out here. How do you keep it fun, or how do you keep it light?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things I look at. One is overtraining, right? You need to know when to pull back a little bit, keep your body fresh, kind of have that pop, right? Just because you're putting, 10 hours a day into training, it's not a good 10 hours, right? So you have to be smart there. I think the other thing too, from kind of the youth to high school, and it translates into college, the burnout. I'm not a big burnout guy. I kind of think it's a little bit of an excuse, but I do think it has to do with the parents. Just putting pressure on their kids, to win. And if they don't win, it's the end of the world and they're disappointed. And I was actually at Who's Number One, and there was a kid wrestling, and obviously if you're in that event, you're a stud, right? But the one thing that stood out to me is the kid got taken down. He looked at his corner, and the coach in the corner put his head down and put his head in his hands and was like shaking his head, like almost, and the kid's looking at him, and it was almost like, he was broken in the corner, So I just pick up on little things like that, where body language is everything. Not putting extra pressure on your kid. They've done the work, and especially at that level, you're just trying to get better, right? It's not really, you want to win. Everybody wants to win, don't get me wrong. But if you don't win, you go back to the drawing board and you fix it and you get better and you grow. And that's a little bit a problem with our sport, is it's so results driven.
Yeah.
And it's even like that in the coaching world, right? If you're a 5-time world champion, you might not be a good coach.
Yeah.
Right. Because to be a 5-time world champion, you probably had to be pretty selfish along the way. So it's very hard to kind of change that mindset to, I need to be selfless now. Right. If I don't feel like working out and Dean Peterson needs to get a workout in, no matter how I feel, I will do that for him. So, and that took me a little bit to figure out. Coming off the senior circuit, I was definitely very selfish. And once my mindset changed, that's what kind of helped me become a better coach.
Do you think that's alleviate, maybe not just for yourself, but for other coaches, whether they're on the staff or other coaches you've noticed at the Division I level around the country? Do you think do you think it's alleviating for those guys and yourself where you get yourself into that coaching mindset instead, where it's all about the guys in the lineup, the guys that are going to be supporting them, either from the bench or the practice room or even the practice bodies? When you look at those 25 to 30 guys, you're just like, is it more alleviating where it's like, all right, they need the work, so I'm going to give them the work, and that's much better than, I guess, dialing it in for yourself, trying to compete for, a world title later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, you become very unselfish, and whatever those guys need, you're trying to get those guys to achieve their goals. I mean, for me personally, I came up a little short. Couldn't win the big match per se. Whether it was NCAAs or to make the world team, right? I was, right there. But I think that those moments is what has helped me become a better coach. And just knowing the mistakes that I've made along the way, I'm able to, kind of help guide the ship and really help those guys make the right decisions and understand that you only get one shot at this, so you can't sit here and say, oh, well, I have next year. You're not guaranteed that, you're not guaranteed that. So you need to be in the moment and lock in and keep the ship straight. So, it's a little bit of my insight there.
I love it. Rutgers Wrestling assistant coach Steve Mytych with me here on On3 Wrestling. A couple more for you, Coach, and again, I appreciate your time this morning.
Absolutely.
When you guys have been rising in the Big Ten as long as I can remember. I was a student back when Rutgers was first introduced into the Big Ten, and it's been a slow, steady climb to the top, or getting close to the top right now. When you talk about this program's ability to adapt to this conference where, the Penn States, the Iowas, the Ohio States, the Michigans, these traditional powers, traditional Big Ten schools in pretty much all these sports. Now it's Rutgers is right on that doorstep. And I know there's been a lot of talk about, all right, when's that next step coming? And I'm not asking you to put a timetable on it, but do you feel that the more you have seasons like the past couple, you get recruiting classes like this, it's finally going to kind of explode? Is that what we're really aiming for here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I can tell you, my pitch on this whole thing is we want to take down the monster. Mm-hmm. So when I'm in, houses or I'm on the road recruiting, it's very easy to go to those three schools. I don't even like saying their name, but we want to catch those guys, and I want a group of guys who want to take down, the monsters per se. So in this past recruiting class, that was my pitch to these guys, and the next recruiting class, that is the pitch to my guys. And I can tell you right now, I can't say names, but things that are being written on the internet and on social media, it's all absolutely true about guys who want to come here and guys who want to help take down the big dogs. So that's my mindset. That's our staff's mindset. And like I said, we're going to grind and we want to get after it. We want to get that done. There's no doubt.
Well, if Rutgers does have a loaded lineup this year, next year, and years beyond, that would be great for dual meets as well. And that'll get me into what I wanted to ask you about. I'm sure you're on the train as well. Dual meet championship, team national champion, TV money, however you want to phrase it. It raises the level of the sport. The floor is yours, so to speak. I'm on dual meet championships right here. What do you make of that idea?
Yeah, I mean, it just needs to be done, right? It's every single sport has it, except for wrestling. Even football has expanded theirs. I don't know what that does monetarily, but I gotta believe it's a massive amount that they're bringing in by expanding. Obviously, the March Madness for basketball, that's billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar, production. So, and I'm not saying wrestling would ever get to that point, but there needs to be a dual meet national championship. I mean, with the way our sport is, it's nice to see teams compete, right? We can fill Jersey Mike's, and Penn State can fill theirs, and we have Carver Arena, and fans will come, right? Fans will come. So Scott has the blueprint. He's very into it, let's say. And it just needs to get done. Yeah, I think the holdup is the couple teams at the top may not be into it or may not agree to it, but it just needs to be done. And I think we should go ahead and do it. If they don't want to be involved, then, you know, they don't need to be involved. But just to get it up and off the floor, yeah, I think Scott should run with this thing. And I know there's a lot of people behind it. And like I said, it's good publicity for the sport. You know, some teams have, you know, individual national champions, and some teams have great dual meet lineups, right? They might not have an All-American in their lineup, but they're a great dual meet team because they're tough at every weight, and they might be able to knock, you know, a team off who places ahead of them at the end of the year in the NCAA individual tournament. You could have one guy be a national champ, and you're already in the top, whatever, 15, you know? So I don't think that's a great correlation of your team. So yeah, there just needs to be a dual meet national championship. There's no other way about it.
I think I'd nominate head coach Scott Goodale for college wrestling commissioner if they needed a spot in the way he wants to run with this thing. Where would you put it? Would you keep it like how I think New Jersey is the best example of it? Because I growing up in Jersey and wrestling in Jersey, it's always dual meet, team playoffs, and then once the team playoffs are done, it's like, all right, it's individual season. Let's hone in on these skills for districts, regions, and states. Would you put something like this right after all the conference duels are done? Then just go, all right, here's your team tournament, whether it's your top 12, top 16, top 24 teams. We'll run this over a weekend or maybe a week plus, and then all of a sudden, all right, now it's conference tournaments and NCAA. To me, that's the best solution. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think to get everybody on board, I would say would probably have to be after the individual tournament.
After, okay.
Just from an injury standpoint, I know how these guys think. It's about, keeping their guy healthy for the individual nationals. But I think if we pushed it, made it a second semester sport, you could make it a little bit longer. Because that first semester, you get a couple duels in, maybe a tournament. And then you're into the holidays, so you don't get a whole ton of action and work in that first semester. I mean, if you look at some of the, let's just say the top 10 programs, when you look at their schedule, it's very, very light in the beginning, so I would say push it to a second semester sport, extend the season a little bit, and put that dual meet championship maybe in April. I know Scott had a very good blueprint and outline, so I don't even know if I'm online with him. So I'm just thinking, kind of outside the box right now. But I would say to get everybody on board, it would probably have to be in April, after the national championships.
That's fine with me. I mean, the second semester sport idea always appealed to me, considering, as you just mentioned, you guys open up in November. You got some duels. You got some, you have some big duels, especially down. I mean, Tom's River one is a great event. I mean, you guys have NC State coming to Jersey. I know Princeton and LIU are going to be there as well. So when you talk about an event like that, it's like that's great to open up a season, but it's in November. And all of a sudden, as you just mentioned, Thanksgiving and Christmas are right after that. Then you might squeeze in the Midlands tournament right there.
Yeah. All
right, Steve Mytych with me right here on On3 Wrestling. Coach, appreciate your time. 7 a.m. workout in the books, a little match day action today. What kind of fireworks are you expecting in match days today?
Well, we did the matches today, so there's going to be some good ones. I'm excited to see these guys get after it.
I can't wait to come up into that room and see you guys ahead of the season opener next month, of course, and seeing how this team lines up this year and the action and the energy in the room. Looking forward to it. Coach, appreciate your time. Good luck the rest of the way, and I'll be seeing you guys coming up shortly, actually.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Steve Mytych with me right here on On3 Wrestling. Be sure to like and subscribe to this video and check out our content at on3.com.